I guess there's no more left of the song. But that's John Tavano here on Jompa Radio 96.3 FM. And we play a lot of him, actually, and very nice. And we have a guest with us this morning. Bethany Groff is with us. Bethany Groff Dorau is our guest.
I keep adding names.
I know. But that's the last one you'll add, right?
Oh, absolutely. Never subtract.
That's right. But I haven't known you as Bethany. Now, when are you going to drop the Groff at all? And
no, it's funny. My parents never gave me a middle name. So when I remarried, I asked my former husband, who's my great friend, if he minded if I kept his name as my middle name.
Oh, okay.
Because I'm published as Bethany Groff, and I have children whose last name is Groff, and I didn't have a middle name anyway. So
yeah,
I figured, what's another 5-letter German name in a long life filled with them? So that is now officially my middle name, so I get to keep it forever.
Oh, cool. All right. Well, that's the deal. And Bethany is joining us from the Spencer Pierce Little Farm and Historic New England. And also she is the district
regional
manager
for the North Shore.
For the North Shore for Historic New England, right?
Yes, thank you.
I got it.
You did. You absolutely got it.
Nailed it. Yep. So you've got some things that are going on.
Oh, man, do I ever.
Yeah. So, why don't you tell us or get us up to date? I was talking to somebody the other day about the baseball games. Are they still playing baseball?
Oh, yeah. The next game is actually at our American Music and Harvest Festival, which is on the 29th, so a week from Saturday. I'm already doing the weather dance, and I would appreciate it if everyone does a little bounce for me in your car on your way to work right now. We're hoping for some good weather because it is an outdoor event. But it is an incredibly fun, joyous day. It actually is a fundraiser for the education foundations from the region. It's generously sponsored by the Institution for Savings. So we bring in some sort of incredible, talented local and regional bands. The Newburyport High School marching band is actually going to open the event by marching up the Spencer Pierce Little Farm Lane.
Oh, that's a great lane.
It's wonderful. It's gorgeous, and it's my favorite because it's music. It's music helping music programs in schools, and other things that are funded by the education foundations that really help to fill a lot of the gaps in funding that happen in the area. So. We partner very closely with the Newburyport Education Foundation, but we also work closely with the Triton Education Foundation in Amesbury and Pentucket and, all over. So we really are so excited. And what happens is that all of the advance tickets for sales for this event go, 100% of the ticket sales goes directly to the schools. So there's no, we'll give them 10%. There's no shaving off the top.
Yeah.
If you go to the Newburyport Education Foundation website and buy a ticket, you can select the education foundation that you want your ticket sale to be credited to, and they get 100% of your ticket.
Oh, wow.
So it's really, even if you can't go, it's a nice way to make a quick donation and support both the arts and local musicians.
Yeah. Oh, that's nice that you're able to pick your charity.
Yeah. I love the model. It was my good friend Jay Iannini, who was in the Newburyport Education Foundation at the time, sort of set this up as a way to bring the education foundations together so they could work together, and it was a way to have a sort of all you have to do is sell the tickets model of fundraising for some of the education foundations that were smaller and had a little less capacity than a Newburyport or a Triton. So it's been great. This is our 9th year, believe it or not. It started off as a small little concert, and now it's 10.5 hours long. I'm tired just thinking about it, but I get there and it's so much fun. And there's all sorts of other things to do as well. There's food. Kelly's Roast Beef is coming with their truck, so they've got roast beef and fried clams and so all the stuff that you should not be eating, but really, really want to. And and we've got Anchorstone Pizza. They're coming, and we have got a farm stand. So there's lots to eat. Mm-hmm. There's lots to drink. We've got some wonderful adult vendors there. Ipswich Ale, of course, because they follow me wherever I go. In Newburyport Brewing as well. We've also got Mead, the 1634 Meadery, Mill River Wines, and the wonderful, delicious Saintly Cider. My friend Caleb Noble is coming with his cider. So there's, I mean, there will also be water and soda, but we want to make sure the grown-ups can have a good time if they wish.
Yeah.
So it's just super fun. And there's wagon rides and just crafts and cider pressing. And it's really, we don't want to take the traditional sort of harvest activities out of the picture, but it really is also very just focused on music. And my daughter, a little shout out, my daughter's band called Bliss will be playing at 10:15. So if you want to come see where my sassy attitude went. She's 15. She goes to Newburyport High, and she plays in a band called Bliss.
Oh, wow. Have they recorded anything? We could get them on here.
Oh, I would love to. I'll send you a tape.
Sure. Yeah, why not?
There aren't tapes anymore, are there? Wow, that just dated me. I'll send you an 8-track.
Hey, thanks. I'll put it in the car.
That would be fun. I love it.
Yeah, that would be. Now, back in the old days, harvest time was a big deal, wasn't it?
Absolutely, and it was, I think it was the one time of year where people felt like they could let their hair down a little bit because, assuming that it was a good harvest, obviously, the very hardest time was in the spring, and then you spend, even when your crops are starting to grow, you still are living off of what you grew the year before. So finally, you know that you're going to have some food security for the winter. So I think the harvest was the one time that people really felt like, okay, we're going to be all right.
Yeah.
We're going to survive to live another year. So that's a little bit of a dire explanation of why we love the harvest. But really, it's as basic as that. We're going to live for another year.
That's right. Well, yeah, during the winter, you live on, you sow what you reap what you sow. So during the winter, you prepare, you do all the work in the spring, you continue on taking care of the crops in the summertime, and then in the fall, you reap what you've sowed.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So there, there's always been it's a time of very hard work also, and I think in traditional agricultural communities, people did work together, and all of these traditions that we think of, husking bees, and they used to have threshing parties where they'd bring the wheat in and they'd thresh the wheat. And,
Oh, yeah.
These are all things that people turned into. People have always wanted to get together and have fun. So if you've all got to work together, you might as well party. So that's where a lot of those fun traditions came from, is from communal work.
How about that?
Yeah.
Now, you've, in addition to planning for next Saturday, you've been making the lecture tour, too.
I have. I just had I've had so many wonderful opportunities to talk about Eben Bradbury. My book, which is called A Newburyport Marine, was published in June, and I took it to France to visit. Eben Bradbury is obviously a Marine who was killed in World War I, and he's buried at the Ain Marne American Cemetery in France. And when I came off the press and I grabbed it and took it to France, and then ever since I came back, I've been passionately sharing him with the town. He was with the city. He was from Newburyport, and not just from Newburyport. He was so deeply ingrained in the life of Newburyport. He lived on Federal Street and then Bromfield Street, went to Newburyport High School, went to Camp Burley, which is the camp where so many of the Newburyport's young men went. And then when he was one of the first to go off to war after war was declared with Germany in 1917, although there were other young men from Newburyport serving in the Canadian and British Army, actually, before that. So he certainly wasn't the first Newburyport young man to go, and he was not the first Newburyport young man to die either, but he was the first to die in battle as part of the American forces. He died on June 12th, 1918, so he was in the service for about a year. So I have been, and then there was this long, it's a terrible story. There was this long period of time where his family didn't know he was dead, and I have all his family paper. Well, I don't have all of them, but I have a collection of family letters, papers, diaries, and the last letter that he ever wrote home to his family, which I have, the last thing he ever said, or that I have that he ever said to his parents, was "Remember me." And it's funny. I've been doing this for years. I've been talking about this guy, and I still actually get chills saying that, because I feel like, this is a message straight to me and to everybody in Newburyport. He was here. He mattered. His family mattered, and nobody's thought about it. Well, that's not true. that nobody's thought about him, but most people don't know who he is, and I feel compelled to rectify that. So I'll be doing that tonight, actually, at the Emma Andrews Library, which is right near his house on 67 Bromfield Street.
Oh, that's strange.
Yeah. It's actually the beautiful, wonderful thing about local history is that it really does change your life because you can't avoid it. You know, you can read about Gettysburg, and if you're not in Gettysburg, you know, it may obsess you, but you aren't necessarily reminded of it at every turn. But, you know, every time I drive down Bromfield Street, I look at his house and you have to wave, you know, you have to, because I know what happened there.
Yeah.
So it really is a very rich experience, but not a happy one.
Well, I remember the story that you told, you know, that helped you make the decision to write the book about the over the Bartlett Mall and the cannon that's over there, right?
Yeah, the cannon and the rock. So there's a big memorial rock to him, and I had just written a chapter about the battle in which he died, and I had never actually read the stone that I drive by all the time, or if I had read it, which I probably did at some point, I just never made a real connection to it because I didn't understand, but I had just literally written the book on that on that battle.
Yeah.
And so I understood exactly, or at least more than I did before, what he had gone through. And then just became so interested in what his life was like. And, you know, the worlds just open up for you when you start looking at somebody's life in that level of detail.
Yeah.
I mean, I know more about him and more about his father, who's the man whose diaries I have, than I know about my own father in some ways. I know what he was eating every day for breakfast and where he walked and what he bought. He meticulously recorded every penny he spent.
Really?
I know every time his son's hair was cut. I know every pair of shoes he bought. So, you know, things that you wouldn't know about your own family. I know about them. It's sort of almost jarringly intimate.
Yeah. Huh. And you didn't have Facebook to catch that all.
Exactly. Although Facebook helped me a lot. Because
Did it really?
because there's a wonderful community of people out there now who are history lovers who are using Facebook to help connect some dots that might not be connected otherwise. So it actually is a wonderful resource for people in local history. That's how I met Steve Bradbury, who is the gentleman who gave me the Ebens Medal, which is the reason I went to France the first time.
How about that?
So I have to tell you one more thing, because this is a Newburyport thing, and you all will love this. I have to give a little shout out to so many people that helped with this project. But one of the things, when I went to France in June, I brought my friend Cynthia August with me. She's a wonderful photographer. And her photographs from that trip actually are on exhibit at the Carryout Cafe until the end of the month. But my point is, her photography project, was actually to photograph the French citizens, the French people who were working in the cemetery. So they're the gardeners and the masons and all the support staff. There's one American employee, and it's the superintendent. So everybody else there is, French, or presumably French, but not American. So she photographed them. She did portraits of them doing their work in the cemetery, because here they are, all these French citizens caring for American graves in perpetuity. It's amazing. So when we came back, we got to know some of these folks particularly well. And it's a small cemetery. It's only about 2,000. I mean, relatively small. It's only about 2,000 people. And a lot of them are from New England, because New England, first the Marines and then the Yankee Division, were fighting in that area. So very personal, it feels very personal. At any rate, we got back and I assembled a giant Newburyport themed care package for all of these people. And they just received it. I just got an email from the assistant superintendent, who's also a Frenchman. His name's Constant Labastard, but I call him Constant Labastard, which isn't probably very cool of me. But we've developed quite a friendship. And he is, we sent them sweatshirts. And the clipper engraving woman, Marcia Samuelson, made us wine bottle stoppers, because how French is that, with our coordinates on it. And it's all part of my sick plan to make everybody that works there stop and see him. Because I think when you work there, you just see a sea of gravestones, and underneath that gravestone is our own boy, and I want them to think about him.
How about that?
So somewhere in France, there is a there's a gardener walking around with a Plum Fest T-shirt on who's never going to walk by Eben Bradbury again without thinking about him. Yeah. So I'm on the Remember Me quest.
Oh, how about that? Now, how were you able to locate the grave?
That is an interesting part of the process. It is actually possible to, the internet is very useful in all sorts of ways. Once I managed to request his personnel file from the military. Now, it's now been more than 100 years old, so I believe it's public record at this point. But at that point, it was still available only to family. So I had to prove that I had a right to access his file. So I had to do my genealogy. We are fifth cousins, twice removed, because everybody in my family that, any family that stayed in Newburyport for more than 4 generations is related to every other family somehow. So I did my genealogy. I was very lucky to have an aunt and a cousin that set it up for me, figured that out, called, got his record, and his record, included information about his death and burial. The thing that one of the tragedies about the situation for me is that he wasn't brought home. About 70% of the young men who died in World War I, Americans, were brought home and buried here. And given what I know about his family, it's incredibly difficult for me to imagine why he was not brought home, except I know his father through his father's letters and diaries. Mm-hmm. And I think his family was just not able to deal with his death. His family has plots in Old Hill, in Oak Hill. His father was the visitor of the dead. He was the person that would arrange for his uncles and cousins to come back and be buried in Newburyport. Oh. He was very into genealogy and family history. And not only did he not bring his own son home, he moved to California after his son died and never came back and never seems to have corresponded with people from Newburyport, doesn't seem to have visited with them. I have his diaries from California as well. And never mentions his son's name again after 1919. Oh, wow. So I think that there was I did a presentation. I was talking to a woman who is responsible. She works for the Army, I believe, in notifying families of death. And she said, I think that, he had PTSD. It was a classic. The father, the way that he found out that his son was dead was so traumatic. And then he was treated so poorly afterwards that he just couldn't, he avoided the whole topic. He avoided the mention of his son who had been so precious to him. So it's just a tragedy. It's a tragic story.
Yeah. So you're going to be talking about that, and that's coming up tonight.
Yeah, you just basically got my whole spiel. Next time I'll bring slides, and then I won't even have to go tonight. Yes, I am. I'm talking about him tonight at the Emma Andrews Library. It starts at 7:30, and they have told me to mention that it does fill up fast.
Oh, it does. Okay.
So you might want to get there a little bit before 7:30 if you want a good seat.
As long as I've been around here, almost 30 years now, I've never been there.
It is adorable. It is just the loveliest little neighborhood library, but it's got a really great collection. It's got a really great group of volunteers. They do a lot of things for the community. I wish there were more M.A. Andrews around. Mm-hmm. You should go check it out. Yeah. You should have somebody from there on this wonderful show.
Yeah, I should. It's a lot. It's not connected to the Newburyport Public Library, right?
No.
It is and
it
it's
is
not.
And it isn't. Yeah, but you can get information about it through the Newburyport Public Library. But no, it's not. Yeah. It's got its own website, so you can look there and see what they're doing. They do a lot of, again, community-oriented things, as does the Public Library, which is a wonderful resource for us as well. But I actually probably spent more time at the Public Library because of their archive room. But the Emma, if I ever had a day off, I would go sit there and read a book.
Oh, how about that?
Yeah, it's wonderful.
Yeah. What are you researching these days?
I'm still stuck on Eben.
Okay.
It's funny. I just gave a talk at the Museum of Old Newbury, which was wonderful. It was great to talk to people that know the city so well, because so much of my book is about the relationship with the city, which is very important. And somebody asked me what I was doing next, and I couldn't. Usually I have a ready answer for that because something else has really captured my attention quickly. And I'm still waiting for something else to happen with Eben. There's been so many serendipitous connections with him that I just feel like he's not quite done with me yet. So I'm not going to be done with him either until I feel like I could let it go.
Okay. All right. So after the Emma Andrews appearance, do you have anything else lined up for speaking engagements?
I do. I'm speaking to the Greater Newburyport Village, and don't ask me for dates. I can't remember.
That's going to be right here at the
there you go.
Senior Community Center.
Yep. I'm speaking with them. I'm working with the librarian at the Knock Middle School to do an Armistice Day program, to help with an Armistice Day program. And I'm on the steering committee of the Newburyport Literary Festival. We just had our first 2019 meeting last night, and what a wonderful group that is, and what a fantastic event.
That's with Vicki
Hendrickson and Jan Entwistle, yep.
Yeah.
And some other luminaries of our community.
Mm-hmm.
But Glee Woodworth, who I'm sure you know, and
she's coming on soon.
Is she wonderful? Well, she and I organized the sort of New England history track at the City Hall. So the two of us have our own little semi-autonomous collective of history nerds that meet over at City Hall. So I'm working on, thinking about how to update the community who's been following the Eben story for that as well. So this year is all about the Eben.
Oh, okay. All right. And next year will be something.
Next year we'll see.
Be more.
We shall see.
Yeah. But first, though, you have to get past, and you don't want to get past, but you want to enjoy.
I always want to get past.
The festival that's going to be taking place next Saturday.
Yep. American Music and Harvest Festival. It's wonderful. Carrie O'Donnell, who's the new executive director for the Newburyport Education Foundation, has been a great help. Great help and partner for us, and it's just going to be a wonderful day. I always, it's one of those things. Someday I'll just go to an event like this just for fun, but I never do. I always, even if I don't have to, I end up jumping in and working. I think that's just my nature.
Yeah.
But this one is going to be really, really fun.
Mm-hmm. Now, people, while they're over there, they go visit the animals that you have?
Yep, they do. They go visit. It's funny. I'm thinking this morning about one of our chickens that's got a hurt leg. So I think I'm going to spend a couple hours tending to her this morning. But yes, we have a group of animals from the MSPCA of all ages and descriptions and conditions. So they're super fun. And then, we've got Freevolt, who is on here a lot. Chuck Walker Trio is coming. The high school band is coming up and having a drum circle. And then we go into sort of some wonderful regional bands, the Soggy Po Boys. They play, you would probably love them on here. They play some great New Orleans style jazz.
Oh, okay.
Just wonderful. They're great. They're based in Kittery, Maine.
Okay.
But they play in this area a lot, I think.
Sure.
And then we've got some great singers, Julie Rhodes, who's a wonderful sort of blues singer. Jenny D and the Delinquents, which is a funny name to have at an education foundation. But,
yeah.
And then our headliner is Barence Whitfield from Barence Whitfield and the Savages, who just blows it out of the water. He's a wonderful musician, and check him out.
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, any of those folks, you have CDs. We don't have CDs for everybody, but if you have them, by all means.
I'll send them over.
Yeah,
sounds wonderful.
Now, you were talking a little bit about the Museum of Old Newbury and the Aviation Day that's coming up on the 25th.
Yeah, absolutely. Next Tuesday, there's a wonderful program that's run by the Museum of Old Newbury. As most of you know, Plum Island Airfield is on historic New England property. It's actually on the back end of the Spencer Pierce Little Farm.
That's right. They rent the space. Is that how that works?
We do and have for a long time. And the Burgess Aviation Museum, which is at the Plum Island Airport, used to be called the Airfield, so I have to call it the airport again. It's a wonderful little museum. And Ted Russell, who is going to be giving a tour there before the lecture at 5:15, is a wealth of knowledge and very passionate about the history of aviation on Plum Island. There's a lot of history there. Mm-hmm. It's one of the first sites for aviation in America. It was easier and softer to land a plane on a dune than, sort of in the sand than anywhere else. So a lot of these early aviators took their lives into their hands and hoped to crash land in some sand. That is way, way oversimplifying it. But for a variety of reasons, this area was really sort of the cradle of early aviation. So he's going to be giving a tour of the Burgess Aviation Museum from 5:15 to 6:15. And then at the Parker River National Wildlife Refuge Center, which is also in our backyard, at 7 o'clock, there'll be a lecture with a reception before it at 6:30. So it's a tour, a reception, and then a talk, and it's all free, which is amazing. We have so many incredible resources in this area. So, there's so many opportunities to go out and see what gets you excited.
Yeah. I was amazed when I found out that the airfield at Plum Island was one of the first ones in the country.
It was.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And then I was surprised that it was also on your land, too.
Well, there you go. And now I'm going to tell you that I don't remember exactly when it was found. There's a sign out there. I think it's 1923? Somebody call in and correct me. I think it's 1923. Burgess, who was one of the earliest aviators, began flying in 1910. So, but I think 1923 was the establishment of the airport.
Okay. All right. Yeah. And
but I'm not promising.
No.
I'm amazingly bad with dates for a historian.
Well, that's why you write things down, right?
That's right. That's why I write things down. And I remember, I remember the stories.
It's all about stories.
Absolutely.
People remember stories.
Yeah. It'd be nice to be able to remember dates, though.
Well, lots of stuff going on, and that festival that's going to be taking place next Saturday over the Spencer Pierce Little Farm. That's fantastic.
Yes, make sure you buy your tickets in advance, because the tickets you can buy your tickets at the door too. I'd be thrilled if you did, but the tickets that are sold in advance are the ones that are 100% given to the Education Foundation.
Oh, okay.
We have to cover some costs, so the tickets at the door go to Historic New England, who hosts and funds the event. You got to pay for portable toilets somehow, but
that's right.
Buy your ticket in advance, and you can get all of that money directly to your Education Foundation.
Yep, and that's and they help out so many folks too.
Absolutely.
I'm glad you mentioned the Newburyport Education Foundation. That's a good thing. Now, now with your ties right now to Eben Bradbury, I bet you're probably into a lot of the veterans events that are going on too.
Absolutely.
So like tomorrow at the Elks, they have that veterans luncheon.
Yep, absolutely. There's some wonderful. I've been working with Kevin Hunt in the. He's right here in this building in the Veterans Affairs office.
Yeah, he salutes every time he walks by.
Does he really? He's great.
Yeah.
I've certainly worked with him, and I think it's a wonderful thing that we have a community that really works to, and I'm sure we don't do enough, but works to remember and assist the veterans that and celebrate their lives and their work.
One of the things he told me, and again, I'm thinking about stories and things like that, but one of the things he told me was that the person who created the design for the POW-MIA flag is from Merrimack.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, that's everywhere. See?
Yeah.
Isn't history lovely? Now every time I see that, I will know that. But
and he's going to be actually speaking tomorrow over at the luncheon at the Elks.
So 12 to 2 at the Elks.
Yeah.
Wonderful. So free to veterans and one guest.
Right.
That sounds great. I'll see if I can go find a veteran and have some lunch. No, I think it's wonderful. There's a gentleman named Don Jarvis, who I'm sure you know, who does a great deal of work for veterans in the area as well, as a veteran himself. So we've worked with him to, try to do a little bit of support work there. But absolutely, I think we just lost one of our most remarkable veterans in this area when Bill Plant passed away. I was thinking about him last night.
Yeah, the Battle of the Bulge.
Yeah, wow, how incredible. I had a phalanx of great uncles, this group of great uncles who were all in World War II, along with both of my grandfathers. One was in the Army, and one was a captain of a merchant marine vessel who ran convoys, which was a very dangerous activity. And I have an great uncle who was in the Battle of the Bulge, and another that landed at Normandy. So I have and they've all passed kind of recently, and I've been thinking a lot about what it means for us to be seeing a whole generation that shared this incredible experience gone. I think at least we knew and we documented in this, for the World War II generation in a way that we didn't really for the World War I.
Right.
veterans. There weren't these big celebrations, and I think we didn't really know. By the time we would have celebrated them, we were already in another war.
Yeah, that's true.
Anyway, I think I think it's sad that we're losing that generation, but of course that's what happens with us humans. We pass on and hand things off.
That's right. Yeah. And that's why we have caretakers like you, over at the historic New England, taking care of not only Spencer Pierce Little Farm, but how many facilities do you oversee?
Oh, you're going to make me tired.
No.
I have the keys to 5.
5.
And then I oversee an additional 5. An additional 6, actually.
Oh, wow.
Yep, all over the North Shore. So it's luckily those sites have incredibly competent, wonderful site managers. So my role there is really a support role, but I have 5, my own darn self.
Mm-hmm. And one is a former tavern, right?
Sweat Elsley House, which is that big, long white house right on the border between Newbury and Newburyport, was absolutely a tavern. Its earliest years are shrouded in a little bit of mystery. The owner was a tavern owner, but it's not clear if that was actually built for him as a tavern or whether he had been running a tavern before and then sort of, moved over and built that house in 1670. But we know that it was a tavern during the American Revolution, which is a very cool little bit of its history as well. And it was, sort of a prime downtown space for a long time, right near the meeting house.
Mm-hmm.
And we actually do a tavern event there in October. Fortunately for me, but unfortunately for potential customers, it's already sold out. But
get out of here.
It sells out within weeks of being announced. It is just so popular, and we can't do it more often. It's a residential neighborhood. We don't want to make too much of a fuss. And it's also very difficult. It's very labor intensive to try to set up an entire tavern in an empty building. So we just do it twice a year, and it's so limited in terms of capacity that it sells out. It is the most fun. It's so much fun. We take 17th century court records, which doesn't sound like fun at all. But it's the most fun because these court records are the place where people where their voices were recorded. And for me, I get the same thrill that somebody gets when they think they've seen a ghost. When I hear somebody's voice that hasn't spoken since the 17th century, some woman that's bringing her neighbor to court for calling her a name or, being a witness even in a property dispute. And the way that people talk was recorded by the clerk, often not only verbatim, but phonetically.
Ah.
So you can say, it's just amazing. You can say a sentence. First of all, some of them are just hilariously funny. People are having fights with each other and just calling each other terrible, terrible names. And they record these all in the book. And you can just imagine, the court sessions are happening in taverns. You can just imagine the whole room just, roaring with laughter. Somebody, I don't know if I can say this on the air, but this is historically accurate. One 17th century woman in Newbury called her neighbor a base quaking slut.
Oh, no.
And what that meant is, base, like you're the lowest of the low, quaking, meaning you're a Quaker, which was horrible at the time. Geez. Horrible. And we all know what the other word means.
Yeah.
But, here they are in court saying these terrible things to each other, and you get to record that. And
in the official record.
Yep. Talk about it. Talk about what that meant to people back then.
Oh,
and
wow.
It's just wonderful. It's a great event.
Well, you see, history is fun. That's why
it's the most fun.
Get involved with the Spencer Pierce Little Farm, historic New England, and catch Bethany Groff Dorau wherever she speaks, right?
Sure can try. I'm wily. I get around.
That's right. But we know where you'll be next Saturday.
Yep, absolutely. The American Music and Harvest Festival. Go get your ticket. Okay.
And the wefsite is?
It's the Newburyport Education Foundation website. I should have it right in front of me, but I think it's
nefnewburyport.org, I think it is.
Just Google it.
Okay.
I don't want to send you to the wrong place.
All right.
Yeah, Newburyport Education Foundation. You can get there right from the homepage. Or you can call the Spencer Pierce Little Farm and we'll put you in the right track.
All right. Well, Bethany, thank you very much. We'll get you back again.
You are so welcome. It's always such a pleasure to start my day here with you.
Terrific. Thank you very much. Bethany Groff Dorau from Spencer Pierce Little Farm, historic New England, our guest this morning here on WJOP Radio 96.3 FM.